Welcome to my anime fanfic channel. I'm Six-Path Weeb, and today we're exploring an epic what if. What if Naruko was trained by the strongest deity? Part 2. Before we jump in, a quick disclaimer, this content is for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage, full credit goes to the original creators. Alright, let's dive into the story. Hajime. My, how determined you are, Waka said as he dodged Naruko's swift move. The chakanette landed gracefully on the ground, crouched and ready. Naruko laughed lightly at Waka's comment as she steadied herself. Oh, trust me, this is only a little challenge. But now, let's duel like true warriors, she declared. Waka twirled mid-air, almost dancing as he readied himself. Indeed, ma chérie. Let us fight with skill, not anger. The Tao Master replied. On guard. Naruko called playfully, dashing forward. She was so quick that Waka stumbled and lightly bumped into the shimmering barrier that surrounded the fight. The gentle thud caused him a small headache, and one of the 3 weak spots in the barrier shimmered and vanished. Whoa, the half-baked prophet got a bit banged up, Ishun exclaimed. Waka rubbed his head, while Naruko stood nearby, smiling. Need a hand, ma chérie? Waka joked, extending his arm. Naruko took it and helped him stand. I must admit, that was quite the performance, the Tao Master commented. Indeed it was, Waka said with a grin. Then he noticed Naruko and Ishun were being observed closely by Amaterasu. Naruko, stop staring at the wolf and the little man on her head. You're making them nervous. Waka called. Naruko blushed, embarrassed, and looked away. I just wanted to know why the wolf has the red markings and the shining mirror on her back, she admitted softly. Wait, you can see Ami's markings? Ishun asked, surprised. Yeah, so? Naruko said, shrugging. Waka facepalmed dramatically. Naruko, the wolf is a goddess. That's why she has markings and a mirror. He explained. Oh, that makes so much sense now, Naruko murmured, tilting her head. Anyway, can we hang out with you two for a while? We're really far from home and trying to figure out how to get back, she asked. Well. Ishun hesitated, trying to think of a polite way to refuse. Naruko, do it, Waka said with a snap of his fingers. Naruko concentrated and formed a clever illusion with her jutsu, and suddenly, the scene shimmered briefly, amusing everyone. Ha, wow, Ishun whispered, landing carefully on Amaterasu's head, fascinated. Now then, Mr. Dramatic, off with you, Waka said, waving her along in a playful gesture. The group began wandering aimlessly, as one often does when there's nothing particular to do. If the wolf is a goddess, shouldn't you two be bringing some kind of divine justice? Naruko asked curiously. Amaterasu and Ishun stopped, exchanging silent glances. Well? Naruko pressed, her ears perking up. Waka gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Patience is a skill we'll all need to practice, he said, smiling warmly. Then he turned to Amaterasu and Ishun. Even though my friend here is a bit impatient, she does have a point. If you're a goddess, shouldn't you have a purpose? Amaterasu looked at Ishun, then at Naruko, and finally spoke. Follow me, the wolf said softly. Everyone, including Naruko, followed her to Hana Valley, where they sat beneath a grand tree. What would you like to know? Amaterasu asked kindly. For starters, where are we? Naruko asked politely. You are in Nippon, the land of mortals, Ishun answered. You met us in Shinshu Field. And, what are you the goddess of? Naruko asked, curious. First, I am not a god but a goddess. I am Okami Amaterasu, goddess of the sun, the wolf replied. And who are you? Naruko asked Ishun. I am Ishun, the wandering artist, and the 7th celestial envoy of the brush gods, he said. The brush gods? Naruko tilted her head. Waka explained, the brush gods are 13 deities who each control a part of nature. They were originally one god, but when that god disappeared, its power split into 13, each guiding the world in different ways. They can share their abilities with mortals who are worthy. Amaterasu raised an eyebrow. How do you know so much about our gods if you're from elsewhere? She asked. I would rather not say yet, Waka replied with a gentle smile. Oh, come on. I'm tiny, you're a goddess, and yet I'm curious, Ishun exclaimed. Are you sure you want to tell them, Ni-san? Naruko asked Waka. He nodded. They told us about themselves, so it's fair we share our story, Waka said. Standing, he began. My name is Waka. What I'm about to tell sounds like a fairy tale, but it's true. I come from a different universe, where I am the highest deity. I rule over all heaven and earth there, but I rarely interfere with the world. 3 years ago, I intervened to help my friend here, he said, gesturing to Naruko. I am what is called a Jinchuriki, which means I carry within me a powerful creature, Naruko began. I come from the elemental nations, a land with many provinces named after the elements themselves. There are villages where Jinchuriki live, each containing a mighty creature called a bijou. Each bijou has its own number of tails, which shows its strength, and each has had humans like me who can bond with them. Amaterasu and Ishun listened, intrigued, as Naruko's tale unfolded, her eyes sparkling with wonder and hope. On the day I was born, the Kyubi, the strongest of all the bijou, attacked my home, Konoha, under the control of a wicked man who had hypnotized it for revenge. My father, the village leader, had no choice but to seal it inside me, his newborn daughter. He knew that a baby's heart was pure and could slowly learn to live alongside the Kyubi's energy without being consumed by it. My father loved the village more than anything, and he hoped that I would one day be seen as a hero for keeping the Kyubi calm. But he did not understand that many in the village were unkind and quick to judge. For 9 years, I endured loneliness and harsh treatment from the villagers. People avoided me, said mean things, and made me feel as if I didn't belong. Most of the children wouldn't play with me, and I often ate alone. But even in those dark times, I clung to the hope that someone would care for me. When I was 6, my life began to change. The owners of a small ramen stand found me shivering in the snow. They took me in, gave me warm food, and helped me heal. For the first time, I felt cared for without expectation, without fear. When I was 7, I met someone truly special in the park. She was quiet and shy, and some children were teasing her for being different. I ran to her side and told the bullies to stop. From that moment, we became inseparable. She came from a prestigious family, where rules were strict and expectations high. Her father was stern, but I knew he only wanted to protect her from unfair treatment by her clan. At 8, I met my best friend, Shino. He belonged to a clan that could communicate with tiny insects living inside them. Like me, he had always felt like an outsider, so we understood each other immediately. By the time I was 9, a kind older boy named Jinso came into my life. He saved me from danger when a group of angry villagers tried to hurt me. Not only did he keep me safe, but he gave me gifts and even a little companion to keep me company. My new friend was a tiny kitsune named Megumi. She had soft black fur, bright orange eyes, and 3 swishing tails. She loved curling up in my kimono and would yip happily whenever she poked her head out. Is that a kitsune? Ishun asked, curious. Yes. Her name is Megumi, I replied, tucking her safely back into my kimono. Our adventure continued when we discovered a disturbance in the land of Kamui. Jinso explained that the balance of space and time had been disrupted, which affected his powers. If we wanted things to return to normal, we would have to investigate and stop the source of the disturbance. We journeyed north through a fierce snowstorm, seeking shelter and safety along the way. Soon, we encountered Oki, a brave warrior surrounded by dozens of Namahage, mischievous spirits causing trouble in the village. Amaterasu, a celestial protector, and Jinso fought to protect Oki while I stayed close with Megumi, ready to help however I could. Amaterasu used her strength and clever strategies to fend off the spirits, while Jinso's quick thinking and magic energy protected the village. Once the danger had passed, Oki thanked us, grateful to be safe. We all went inside his house to dry off and warm up, sharing stories and laughter. Despite the challenges we faced, I realized something important. Even in a world full of hardship, kindness, friendship, and courage could light the darkest paths. And with friends like these by my side, I knew that no storm, no matter how fierce, could ever truly defeat me. A few minutes later, Megumi had curled herself up in her tails, softly snoring beside the warm fire. The rest of the group sat around the flames, sipping hot tea and letting the gentle warmth chase away the chill. Amaterasu and Jinso had carefully dressed Oki's wounds and put his broken limbs into neat, protective casts so they could heal properly. What happened before we arrived, Oki? Amaterasu asked gently. From what I've seen, monster attacks have been very rare in recent years. For you to be cornered by 50 of them. That's highly unusual. I was visiting the other Oina at Webkir when a strange blast of dark energy struck, Oki explained, wincing as he moved his arm. The Namahage came charging from inside Yoshibit. I tried to defend Webkir while everyone escaped, but there were too many of them. That's when you 4 arrived. They came from Yoshibit? Ishun asked, frowning. How is that possible? No beast, or half-beast, can keep their bearings for more than 10 minutes inside that forest. Naruko, sitting cross-legged with her bright blonde hair catching the firelight, tilted her head. Yoshpit? I've never heard of it. What is it? Oki's eyes grew serious. Yoshpit is known to my people as the Forest of Confusion. The trees there release pollen that clouds the minds of any creature that enters. A beast has, at most, 10 minutes to find safety before it loses its way completely, starving or freezing in the forest. Naruko's eyes widened. Wow. That's harsh. Isshu nodded solemnly. Yeah, but that's not even the worst part. You're kidding, right? Naruko asked, a trace of worry in her voice. Not at all, Ishun replied. There's a secret part of Yoshpit almost nobody has ever dared to enter. Those who did never came back. Jinso leaned forward, curiosity sparkling in his eyes. Okay. Now you've got my attention. Oki took a deep breath. Long ago, when Nippon was young, there was a Ronin who traveled the lands, recording everything he saw. No one knew his real name, but he came to be called the historian, for his writings became the beginning of Nippon's history. One day, the historian came to Kamui and discovered Yoshpit. Naturally, he was curious. Ishun continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. He ventured deep into the forest, where the spirit gate stands. With no other path in sight, he began to turn back, but suddenly, a spirit, black as night, appeared. It beckoned him forward along a hidden path. The historian followed it, deeper into the dim forest, until he found a hole in the ground, purple smoke curling out of it. Carefully, he descended to a platform below. And almost immediately, a giant creature appeared. But the historian was brave, Oki said, smiling faintly. He found a way to calm the creature, and when the smoke cleared, a hidden tunnel revealed itself, leading to vast treasure. Yet, a terrible dragon guarded the treasure. It judged every visitor. Those who could not prove their worth were turned away, or worse. Only the historian passed the dragon's test. Years later, Ishun added, a man named Ryoshi tried to claim the treasure. He failed the dragon's test, and though the dragon meant to punish him, he somehow escaped and hid for the rest of his life. The dragon, furious, remained in that part of Yoshpit, guarding it ever since. Legends say, when the moon is shadowed on the night it turns blue, the dragon shall leave its home and walk among mortals for a single night. Naruko's eyes grew wide. Wait, did you say when the moon is shadowed? That's a lunar eclipse. Jinso nodded. A regular lunar eclipse can make the moon appear red, but when a blue moon is eclipsed, its color can change depending on where you see it from. Ishun chuckled softly. Thankfully, a blue moon eclipse only happens 11 times every 1,000 years, or we'd be in real trouble. Suddenly, a deep, echoing roar stopped everyone in their tracks. Outside the window, flames danced across the night sky. Deep within Yoshpit, a dragon breathed fire into the air, its massive form illuminated by the shimmering eclipse of the blue moon. Naruko's heart raced, but she smiled, determination in her eyes. Looks like our adventure isn't over yet, she whispered. The fire crackled, and the group knew, this was a night full of wonder, mystery, and the courage to face the unknown together. Won't something go right? Naruko yelled. You just had to say that out loud. She huffed, spinning around. Why does everything always go a little wonky when I try to do the right thing? She stomped her foot and crossed her arms. Jinso put a gentle hand on her shoulder and smiled warmly. Naruko, I know it's frustrating, but we're not supposed to break the rules of the story just yet, he said kindly. I know, Naruko said with a sigh. But it's so hard to stay calm when things keep happening all at once. Patience is a skill you'll get better at with time, said Ishun, his little eyes twinkling. Even the brightest ninja has to learn how to take a deep breath before acting. You really should practice staying calm, added Ponkla, nodding. Being quick-tempered might make adventures trickier than they need to be. True, Amaterasu agreed softly. A calm heart can see solutions where impatience only sees problems. Naruko looked down at her hands. I guess I'll try. Good, Jinso said with a grin. Now, we don't have time to practice patience all day. The type stream says it's time for an adventure. What? Naruko asked, tilting her head. You know how stories sometimes have magical worlds? Jinso explained. The type stream is kind of like that, a world created by the author, where amazing adventures can happen. Magical adventures? Naruko's eyes sparkled. I love those. Jinso nodded. Yes, but it's also a place where the author can guide us, sometimes very directly. Before Naruko could ask what that meant, a playful wind swirled around them, carrying a cheerful, if slightly bossy, voice. Naruko. If you don't go help the dragon in the meadow, I'm going to make you clean the whole village library by yourself. Naruko gasped. Clean the library? That's kind of terrifying. Exactly, Jinso said, chuckling. Looks like the type stream wants you to have a little courage today. Naruko took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. Alright then. Let's go meet that dragon. Maybe it just wants a friend. And with that, Naruko skipped toward the sunny meadow, her heart full of excitement and determination. With friends by her side and a little magic in the air, she felt ready for anything, because every adventure was a chance to grow, laugh, and discover something wonderful. At the Spirit Gate. As the group arrived in the clearing, Jinso surveyed the area. Many of the trees were charred from the fire that had shot into the sky. Well, I don't think the dragon has left its lair yet, so we're safe. For now, Ishun commented, glancing around. Safe is the key word here, Jinso reminded him. So Naruko, you didn't bring Megumi here, did you? The Chakanette asked the girl with the bright blonde hair. Nope. I left her back with Oki so she wouldn't get hurt, Naruko replied with a grin. Good. Now, we need to be careful moving forward. None of us know what the terrain is like, so. Naruko Uzumaki. Naruko suddenly shouted, bolting straight toward the path leading to the dragon's lair. Damn it, Naruko. Be careful, Jinso shouted, chasing after her with Ishun close behind. Dash. At the dragon's den. The other three arrived just in time to see Naruko dodging a burst of fire. They followed the stream of flames to a hole in the ground that twisted like an L as it disappeared. How is that even possible? Naruko exclaimed, leaping aside to avoid another burst of flame. Hey, come out here and face me. She called, shaking her fist. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a roar rumbled from the hole. I think you made it angry, Ishun exclaimed. The earth around the hole began to rise in bulging waves. Jinso shouted, hit the deck. All four leapt away just as a burst of golden light exploded from the ground. Embers danced in the air, and the shadow of a majestic creature emerged, taller than even the Izofuji mountains. The dragon shimmered with golden scales that sparkled in the moonlight. Its silver eyes glowed gently, and two black horns crowned its head proudly. The dragon lowered its massive head, studying the group with curious eyes. Who dares awaken me, Ryagauteki, protector of eternal knowledge? The dragon's voice rumbled like thunder, but not unkindly. Jinso stepped forward, eyes calm and steady. He smirked at the dragon. Don't you remember me? The Chakanette asked, staring boldly at the creature. Ryagauteki's eyes widened, and a delighted laugh echoed from deep in his throat. Only one person has ever called me that. It's been so long, Jinso. It has indeed, Jinso replied. 200,000 years, perhaps? And what brings you here to Kamui, young travelers? Ryagauteki asked, lowering his head to look at Naruko and her friends. The little glowing fellow is Ishun, that's Amaterasu the wolf, and I'm Naruko, she introduced herself. Ryagauteki's eyes sparkled as he looked at Amaterasu. I sense her true form has been hidden for ages. White wolf, reveal your true self. Amaterasu nodded and closed her eyes. Light shimmered around her as her fur vanished, revealing a graceful figure clothed in white tribal garments. Two wolf ears stood atop her head, and a long, elegant tail swished gently behind her. Ishun blinked in awe, while Naruko's jaw dropped. Wow! She's incredible. Jinso could only mutter softly, gorgeous. Amaterasu smiled, feeling warmth from Jinso's gentle words. Naruko laughed, shaking her head at her friend's reactions. All right, Ryagauteki said, returning to the task at hand. What brings you here, Jinso? Earlier today, some strange magic in Kamui disrupted time and space, Jinso explained. Naruko accidentally got caught in it, and we need to fix it before it causes more trouble. Can you help us locate it? Ryagauteki's eyes glowed faintly green before returning to normal. The source of this disturbance lies about a mile from the village, up in the mountains. Seek it out, and you will find what you need. Thank you, Ryu, Naruko said cheerfully. Go now, so I can rest again, the dragon chuckled. With that, the group hurried toward Oki's house to fetch Megumi and continue their journey to Webkir. 5 minutes later. The group reached the hilltop in Webkir overlooking the Izofuji mountains. Who decided it was a good idea to make walkways out of snow? Naruko grumbled, pointing at the sparkling path ahead. Don't know, don't care. Let's keep moving, Jinso replied. Dash. At Laochi Lake. At last, they reached Laochi Lake, where the Ark of Yamato had once been frozen. Now the waters shimmered peacefully under the sun. So, where is this thing messing with our powers? Naruko asked, squinting at the lake. According to Ryu, it's right below us, Jinso said. But there's just water, Ishun said, confused. Jinso sighed. Which means? We need to go underwater. The source is inside a building at the bottom of the lake. Are you serious? Ishun gasped. Dead serious, Jinso replied. Naruko smiled determinedly. Then let's go. Adventure awaits. She dove into the sparkling waters, her friends following close behind. Together, they were ready to uncover the mystery hidden beneath Laochi Lake, their hearts full of courage and wonder. Naruko then swam back over to the group, with Amaterasu and Ishun staring at her in curiosity. Sorry about that. I'll explain later, the whiskered blonde girl said quickly, brushing some strands of hair from her face. That's okay, Naruko. Now, I'm going to put up a bubble of air around us to keep everyone warm and let us breathe, since the lake is freezing, Jinso explained. But I can only keep it up for about 2 hours. That means if we don't find breathable air inside the underwater building soon, we'll run out of air. 2 hours sounds like a lot. But what about the trip down? Ishun asked, his little face serious. It'll take us about half an hour to reach the bottom, and getting used to moving underwater might slow us down. That really only leaves 5 minutes of extra air. Jinso gave him a small grin. Oh, we won't be swimming all the way down. What? Then how? Ishun blinked. Teleportation, Jinso said cheerfully. Everyone buddy up. I can only transport 2 people at a time, so pair up and hold on tight. Amaterasu quickly grabbed Jinso's arm, while Ishun nestled into Naruko's messy hair. Naruko laughed softly at the ticklish sensation and held him carefully. Jinso focused, and with a snap of his fingers, a shimmering ball of light surrounded the 4 friends. In a blink, they were whisked downward through the icy lake, then gently placed in front of a massive iron building beneath the water. Wow! Naruko breathed, staring at her hands. It feels so strange breathing underwater. But also kind of amazing. Don't worry, you'll get used to it, Jinso said with a smile. Amaterasu peeked around him at the iron doors of the underwater dungeon. There might be tricky puzzles or surprises inside, so stay alert, Jinso reminded them. But remember, we still have almost 2 hours of air left. Let's stick together and explore carefully. The 4 friends stepped inside the underwater building, their bubbles keeping them safe as the world outside shimmered like a magical blue forest. Naruko floated slightly ahead, eyes sparkling with curiosity. She held out her hand toward a glowing coral-shaped lever. Maybe this will open the first door, she said. Amaterasu giggled. I hope it doesn't squirt water at us. Ishun wriggled nervously in Naruko's hair. I think this is going to be fun, he admitted. Jinso laughed, letting them take the lead. That's the spirit. Adventure is always better when we work together. And so, the 4 friends began exploring the mysterious underwater dungeon, their laughter echoing through the shimmering corridors, ready for puzzles, surprises, and discoveries yet to come. When they first entered the dungeon, 4 braziers stood in an empty room, and a sturdy wooden door blocked the way at the other end. So, what? We gotta light these torches or something? That'll be easy, Ishun said with a confident grin. In case you haven't noticed, we're underwater. Fire doesn't work down here, Naruko replied, crossing her arms. I knew that, Ishun shot back. Then why'd you say lighting them with fire would be easy? Exactly. Jinso, trying to ease the tension, clapped his hands together happily. Then we'll use the next best thing. The next best thing is? Naruko asked, curious. Jinso knelt and held his hands together, which began to glow with a soft, shimmering light. Magic beams, he declared. A gentle, sparkling beam shot from his hands toward the door, and instead of breaking it, the beam caused it to slowly open as if by invisible hands. Wow! That's amazing, Naruko exclaimed, eyes wide. Careful, everyone, Jinso said with a grin. We're not out of the water dungeon yet. They moved through the opening, and the dungeon seemed alive with floating objects, books, drums, lanterns, and strange, colorful fish-shaped bubbles drifting around them. Naruko had to duck and weave to avoid bumping into them. Talk about a warm welcome, she said, giggling as she pushed a floating drum gently aside. Jinso perked up suddenly. Everyone, leap. Naruko followed him as they jumped over a set of floating bamboo poles, landing safely on the other side. Thanks for the warning, she said. Keep moving. Jinso called, and they zipped through the maze of magical bubbles and floating objects. Eventually, they reached a large room with a mysterious pit in the center. As soon as they stepped inside, the doors creaked shut behind them. Oh no. Are we trapped? Naruko asked, eyes scanning the room. Suddenly, translucent, glowing vines sprouted from the floor, curling gently toward them. Naruko's heart skipped a beat, but she noticed the vines shimmered in rainbow colors. Maybe they're not dangerous, she said, kneeling down. Using her quick thinking, Naruko discovered that the vines reacted to touch. They moved away when she waved her hands near them. Everyone, follow my lead. Just wave your hands and float along. One by one, Jinso and Ishun mirrored her movements, and the vines parted gracefully, creating a sparkling path over the pit. Laughter echoed as they floated and twirled through the room, the vines curling playfully around them like ribbons. Wow, Naruko. You really saved us, Ishun said, beaming. Naruko shrugged with a smile. I guess sometimes you just have to stay calm and think creatively. Finally, they reached the other side of the room, and the door swung open slowly as if the dungeon itself was congratulating them. The group stepped out, feeling lighter and happier after the magical adventure. Who knew a water dungeon could be so colorful? Naruko said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Colorful, playful, and full of surprises. Jinso added, laughing. And all thanks to our clever leader, Naruko. Naruko grinned. Let's keep moving. Who knows what other wonders are waiting for us. And with that, the four friends continued their journey through the dungeon, ready for more surprises, always trusting their teamwork and clever thinking. Everywhere the blonde looked, she saw that dreaded sight. Every gamer disliked this kind of puzzle in water levels. In fact, it caused many less patient gamers to give up altogether. It was the bane of every player's experience. A water puzzle. Phew, Naruko groaned, staring at the swirling water before her. Real world. That's right, Blondie. You don't question the story. The cheerful author laughed, projecting her voice playfully into the tale at the same time. Jinso Kitsune-kun leaned back in her comfy desk chair and opened a fizzy soda. It's good to be the author, she said with a grin. Doeg verse. Naruko shouted as her character slipped on a puddle, splashing water everywhere. Suddenly, the author's playful voice echoed through the room. That's right, Blondie. You don't question the story, it said. Jinso blinked, raising an eyebrow at Naruko. Naruko. Did you really question the story? She asked quietly. Yeah. So? Naruko replied, her cheeks puffing out in frustration. You don't understand, Naruko. I only intervene when it's absolutely necessary, and I always make sure it's safe and fun for everyone. Questioning things too much can lead to unexpected surprises, Jinso said, trying not to laugh. Naruko blinked, imagining what kind of surprises might appear. The author's voice giggled, and suddenly a figure appeared beside Jinso. It looked almost exactly like her, but with sparkling streaks of gold in her hair, soft fox ears, and a fluffy tail that wagged happily. Hello there. The figure said cheerfully. I'm the story guide. Don't worry, I'm here to make sure everything stays fun. Naruko's eyes widened. Oh. So you're not scary? Not at all. The guide laughed. I just love puzzles and adventures, and I promise, no one gets hurt here, only a little surprised sometimes. Jinso nodded. Now, Naruko, the water puzzle might seem tricky, but it's all about using your mind and creativity. Look carefully for hidden clues, and don't panic. You'll be fine. Naruko took a deep breath and looked at the swirling water again. She noticed that the ripples formed a pattern, like stepping stones. Carefully, she hopped across, each step making little sparkles of light appear in the water. Wow! It's like magic, she whispered. As she reached the other side, the floor shimmered, revealing a secret door. Look, Jinso exclaimed. You found the hidden path. The group entered the doorway and found themselves in a dazzling room. Sunlight streamed in from cracks in the walls, making golden dust dance in the air. Treasure wasn't just coins or gold, it was playful, magical items, glowing crystals, floating fruits, and sparkling toys. Naruko's eyes widened with delight. This is amazing, she said, picking up a glowing crystal. It floated in her hand like it was alive. Suddenly, the treasure chests around them wiggled and giggled. There. Playful chests, Naruko laughed. They just want us to solve their riddles to see what's inside. Ishu nodded. Exactly. No one's in danger, they just love little games. Naruko approached the first chest. Alright, let's see your riddle. She listened carefully, then tapped her crystal in the right spot. The chest popped open with a cheerful ping, revealing a floating toy fox. The group cheered. You did it, Naruko, Jinso said proudly. Naruko smiled, her blonde hair bouncing. This adventure is going to be the best one yet. And with that, the team continued through the sparkling dungeon, solving playful puzzles, discovering magical treasures, and laughing all the way. The water puzzles weren't scary anymore, they were a path to creativity, friendship, and fun. Dr. Octopus no Jutsu. Everyone ducked as Jinso suddenly sprouted mechanical tentacles, standing tall on them as she twirled and shot a sparkling blue beam from her mouth. The beam zipped across the room and gently tapped the mischievous mimic chests, turning them into harmless glittering confetti. With a cheerful twirl, Jinso's tentacles retracted back into her backpack, and she landed gracefully beside Naruko. Naruko blinked, staring at her friend. Don't ask, Jinso said with a shrug. Suddenly, 8 treasure chests appeared where the mimics had been, and the door clicked open. I guess this was a challenge room. Well, to the victor go the spoils of fun, Jinso said as she opened the chests. Inside were sparkling trinkets and shiny baubles. Her brow furrowed in mock seriousness. Jewelry? She said. Shrugging, she tucked the treasures away. Well, these are decorative. Let's keep moving. Naruko nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes it's better to go with the flow than to swim upstream. Exactly. Now let's see what's next. 40 minutes later, they reached a narrow hallway that opened into a massive chamber with a giant door. The team paused to catch their breath. We're almost there, Jinso said. About half an hour of air left, give or take. At least we can finally see what caused all the weird stuff, Naruko said, eyes sparkling with curiosity. Something powerful is behind that door, Jinso warned. Are you ready? Always, Ni-san. Naruko cheered. I'm ready too. Amaterasu chimed. Why not? Ishun shrugged with a grin. Okay, team. We don't know what's waiting, so stay sharp. Only 30 minutes of air left, let's make it count. Jinso pumped her fist, and the others followed suit. With a deep breath, she pushed open the enormous door. Inside, the room was set up like a stage, with 2 platforms in the center, spotlights from above, and bleachers lining the walls. So, someone finally dares to challenge me, hissed a playful, echoing voice. Show yourself. Jinso called. From the shadows stepped a figure with crimson skin, small horns, and a mischievous grin. He wore a leather jacket and denim pants, his black hooves clicking lightly on the floor. Welcome to my lair. I am Lucifer, the devil of rock, he announced with a dramatic flourish. Rock? Naruko asked, tilting her head. I see you're here to fix the disturbances in this world, Lucifer continued. But first, you must prove yourself in a music challenge. Naruko's eyes widened. Music challenge? That sounds fun. Lucifer conjured a glowing electric guitar, decorated with maroon skulls. Jinso smirked and produced her own, black with golden flames licking across the body. I'll take this one, Jinso said to Naruko. You sit back and cheer, your job is to have fun. Naruko clapped and cheered. You got this, Ni-san. The platforms lifted, the crowd of cheering skeletons on Lucifer's side bouncing in excitement. Do you really think you can beat the devil of rock? Lucifer teased. I may not be a devil, but I am a master of fun, Jinso declared. Then, with a dramatic strum, she began a dazzling display of musical notes. She plucked, twirled, and strummed, creating sparkling arcs of sound that danced in the air like fireworks. The skeletons gasped and cheered, utterly mesmerized. Lucifer's jaw dropped, he hadn't expected such brilliance. Naruko jumped up and down in excitement. Lucifer grinned and returned the favor, his music weaving a story of its own. The two battled in a magical, harmonious duel, their notes creating a rainbow of light and laughter in the chamber. Go, Jinso! Naruko cheered. You can do it. And so, the battle of music began, not a fight of might, but of joy, rhythm, and imagination. Each strum and pluck filled the room with sparkling energy, until the entire chamber was alive with laughter, dancing lights, and the most unforgettable music anyone had ever heard. The two rockers began to twang their guitars loudly, filling the room with energetic and magical music that seemed to make the walls hum. You know, if you'd just save yourself the trouble and stop all this noise, I'd happily let you go, Lucifer, Jinso said calmly, his fingers dancing over the strings. Ha! Like I'd stop until my afterlife had a real challenge from you. Keep trying, and we'll see what happens. Lucifer replied with a grin. Then show me what you've got, Jinso shouted. And just like that, the first lyrics began to float through the air as Lucifer sang. The devil went down to Georgia, he was looking for a soul to win. He was in a bind cause he was far behind, and he was willing to begin. When he came across a young musician playing her fiddle bright and hot. The devil jumped on a hickory stump and said, "Child, let me tell you what." Both guitarists launched into an incredible instrumental riff, their fingers moving like streaks of lightning. Everyone watching gasped at how fast and perfectly they played, as if the music itself was alive. "I guess you didn't know it, but I can play a fiddle too," Lucifer said with a sly smile. "And if you're willing to take a challenge, I'll make a bet with you." "Now, you play a pretty good fiddle, devil, but give me my due, I'll bet a golden fiddle against your pride, because I know I can outplay you." Then Naruko spoke, her voice bright and confident. "My name's Naruko, and it may be bold, but I'll take your bet. You're about to see the best there's ever been." The two of them dove back into their instruments. Naruko's bow danced across her fiddle, her heart full of excitement, while Lucifer's fingers glowed like tiny flames on his strings. "Rosin up your bow and play your fiddle strong. For this musical duel will echo far and long. Win, and you get this shiny fiddle of gold. Lose, and the devil gets the story told." The music swirled around them like magic, filling the air with dazzling colors. Naruko's courage shone brightly, and even the room seemed to cheer her on. Amaterasu, standing nearby, whispered in awe, "It's amazing, how do they keep it up so perfectly?" Naruko's friend from Konoha cheered, "Even after all this time, I never knew how epic her music could be." The duel continued, both musicians giving it their all. Bright auras of white and red sparkled and twirled around them, pushing each other back and forth. The building trembled slightly, but neither missed a single note. "You realize I'm going to win, right?" Jinso teased, his eyes gleaming. "Oh, really? How can you be sure?" Lucifer asked, raising an eyebrow. "Have you ever heard how this song ends?" Jinso said with a wink. Finally, after an epic crescendo, Naruko's glowing aura surged forward, and Lucifer bowed his head, acknowledging her triumph. She had played every note with courage and joy, earning the golden fiddle. Naruko smiled brightly. "Thanks for the challenge, but next time, maybe try to keep up." Jinso and the others cheered as the last magical notes faded. The skeletons that had been under Lucifer's control dissolved into harmless sparkles, leaving the room peaceful once more. "All right," Jinso said, smiling, "with just a few minutes left of air, let's head home, Naruko." "Finally. I could go for a big bowl of ramen, or maybe two," Naruko laughed. A snap of Jinso's fingers brought them safely back to land, and another snap made her companion appear in her arms. "Well, I guess this is it," Jinso said, waving. "I hope we meet again someday." "See you," Naruko called, smiling as she prepared to step through the portal. "Wait." Amaterasu ran up, looking shy. I wish to go with you." Naruko knelt to her friend. "Are you sure? You have duties in the celestial plane." "I'll come this time. I want to see the world with you," Amaterasu said softly. With a smile and a final snap of her fingers, Naruko opened the portal, and together, they walked into a new adventure, hearts full of music, courage, and friendship. Back in Konoha, Academy roof. Another shimmering ellipse opened up, and three figures tumbled out of it, kicking up a small cloud of dust. The sudden burst of energy immediately caught the attention of the Anbu and the Hokage. What they saw was unusual. And a little funny. Naruko was laying face first in the dirt, her legs kicking up behind her, while Amaterasu had accidentally landed on top of Jinso, leaving them both in a rather awkward pile. Both of them had wide eyes, staring at each other with surprise. "Her eyes are like golden sunlight," Jinso thought. "His eyes. They change colors like the sky over the ocean," Amaterasu thought, blushing as she tried to focus. "Good morning, Gigi. What's new?" A cheerful voice broke the spell. Both Amaterasu and Jinso blinked and looked up to see the Hokage, several Anbu, and even Naruko staring at them. Their faces turned as red as ripe tomatoes. "Not much is new, Naruko-chan. Though I did have to convince the council not to panic when you went through that portal," the Hokage replied, smiling at Jinso's embarrassed look. "You don't even know the half of it," Naruko said, brushing dirt from her clothes with a small grin. Her playful energy made even the Anbu soften their stances. Jinso politely asked the Hokage if they could continue their conversation in private. The four of them walked to the Hokage's office. Once seated, Jinso told the full story, from the moment they stepped through the mysterious portal to their dramatic return. The Hokage let out a long whistle. That's quite a tale, Jinso-sama. But I'll have to inform the council, since the portal's chakra upset their powers quite a bit, the Sandaime said with a knowing smile. Jinso nodded thoughtfully. Then, with a sudden seriousness, he said, Hiruzen. I want to make a deal with you. A deal? And what would that be, Jinso-sama? The Hokage asked, intrigued. First, if you were 30 years younger, what would you do about the civilian council? The Hokage chuckled. I would firmly remind them to take their duties seriously, and to stop fussing over every little detail. Second, any health problems in the past year? Jinso asked. No, none, Hiruzen replied. Finally, if you could have one thing in the entire world, what would it be? Hiruzen thought carefully. I would wish for one quiet night to spend with my family, without any distractions. Jinso smiled. That's exactly the answer I was looking for. With a gentle touch to the Hokage's forehead, Jinso restored him to his youthful vigor. Hiruzen blinked in amazement as his gray hair turned brown and his tired body was filled with energy again. I feel incredible. I'm back in my prime. Hiruzen cheered. Remember, this gift is a responsibility. Use it wisely, Jinso said seriously. Then, with a wink, he added, also, don't tell the council. They would never stop asking for favors. After ensuring Hiruzen was settled, Jinso returned to Naruko. The cheerful girl was brushing off dust from her clothes, her golden hair catching the sunlight. Ready for the council meeting? Jinso asked. Of course, Jin-koi. Amaterasu replied with a grin, slipping into a flowing kimono that shimmered in the light. Jinso took her hand gently, and the two walked toward the council hall together. When they arrived, Jinso kicked the doors off their hinges, startling the council members. Oops, he said with a grin. Better aim next time. Naruko giggled and ran over to sit beside Amaterasu on a small couch Jinso had unsealed for them. Jinso put an arm around Amaterasu, and they all settled in comfortably. So, Jinso began, sipping from a glass of wine he had brought for the occasion, why exactly did the council want to meet me and Naruko today? It's about that mysterious ellipse that allows people to travel between places instantly, the council leader explained. Jinso nodded, unimpressed. Dimension hopping? That's just science disguised as magic, he said, rolling his eyes. But don't worry, I can handle it. When a council member started asking complicated questions, Jinso cut in politely but firmly. No one is taking advantage of anyone here. We'll explain everything clearly, so let's focus and pay attention. Naruko, bouncing slightly in her seat, watched Jinso and Amaterasu with admiration. She loved being part of their clever, adventurous group. And so, the tale of the mysterious portal, the youthful Hokage, and the brave Naruko continued, filled with laughter, clever tricks, and the promise of more adventures in Konoha and beyond. The meeting room was buzzing with excitement. Council members whispered among themselves, curious about the tall, kind figure who stood beside Naruko. She smiled gently, her golden eyes twinkling as she brushed a lock of hair from her face. You still haven't told us who this lovely lady is, Shibi said, gesturing to Amaterasu, who had curled happily beside Naruko. Many of the shinobi council members let out a collective awe at the sight. On the civilian council's side, however, there was a mixture of curiosity and astonishment. They had never seen such a warm and magical presence before. She is my dearest friend, Naruko said softly, placing a hand over Amaterasu's. She has a heart full of kindness, and she's been by my side through every adventure. The civilians leaned in, fascinated. She looks magical. What does she do? One of them asked. Amaterasu giggled and said, I help Naruko see the good in everyone and everything. I make sure that magic and laughter are never far away. Naruko's friends on the Shinobi Council nodded in agreement. She has a very special gift, Sume said. A gift that inspires everyone around her. One curious civilian piped up, but aren't you the strongest ninja, Naruko? How can a friend like her help you? Naruko smiled brightly, her orange cloak fluttering slightly. Being strong doesn't mean you have to face the world alone. Everyone has something special to share. Her kindness is stronger than any jutsu or technique. It can calm storms and bring laughter where it's needed most. The room quieted, and a sense of warmth filled the space. Even the most skeptical council members found themselves smiling at the sight of Naruko and Amaterasu's gentle connection. I see, said Hiruzen-san, the Hokage, with a nod. True strength isn't just about power. It's about heart, courage, and the friends who lift you up. Naruko held out her hand. Would anyone like to see something fun? She asked. With a gentle flick of her fingers, the shattered glass on the floor reassembled itself, floating neatly into place. Gasps of wonder filled the room. I can help mend things, even if they seem broken, Naruko explained. Not just objects, but sometimes even feelings or friendships. That's my favorite kind of magic. The council members exchanged amazed glances, realizing that this young ninja had not only courage and skill, but also a heart that could unite people. The meeting continued with laughter and curiosity, everyone eager to hear Naruko's ideas and stories. By the end, even the most doubtful civilians were smiling, inspired by the simple truth that kindness, courage, and friendship were the greatest powers of all. As the council adjourned, Naruko waved to everyone. Remember, she said, there's magic in every heart, sometimes you just have to look closely to see it. Amaterasu twirled beside her, a playful reminder that joy and love were always within reach. And with that, Naruko and her magical friend stepped out into the sunlight, ready for the next adventure, one filled with laughter, friendship, and wonder. The sun shone brightly over the village as Naruko raced toward the old training ground, her pink headband fluttering in the wind. She was full of energy, her eyes sparkling with determination. Today, she wasn't chasing enemies or fighting battles. Today, she was on a mission to save the village's most important treasure, the giant, magical scroll that contained the village's history of kindness and teamwork. Come on, I can do this, Naruko shouted, hopping over a log with a cartwheel that landed her perfectly on her feet. Just ahead, Jinso was waiting. He wasn't a villain, but a mischievous friend who liked to test Naruko's cleverness. He held a long, glowing staff that sparkled like sunlight on water. You think you can get past me, Naruko? Jinso said with a grin. Watch me. She replied, twirling into a perfect ninja roll. With a burst of speed, she dashed forward, but instead of fighting, she leapt high into the air and tapped Jinso lightly on the shoulder. Tag. You're it. Jinso laughed, spinning around. Oh no, not fair. You're way too fast. He pretended to swing his staff, and Naruko giggled as she darted around him, weaving through imaginary obstacles. One by one, other villagers, friends, teachers, and even the little kids from the academy, joined in the game. They dodged, leapt, and twirled around each other in a chaotic but joyful dance of laughter. Naruko's heart felt light. This wasn't about winning or losing, it was about having fun and being together. Finally, Naruko leapt onto a tree stump, landing gracefully. She held up the magical scroll, which glimmered as if it were smiling. Got it. The treasure is safe. Wow, Naruko, Jinso said, clapping. You really are the fastest, cleverest ninja in the village. Naruko blushed, tucking the scroll safely under her arm. Thanks, Jinso. But we all did it together. That's what makes it special. Later, everyone gathered at the village hall. The author of the village story, an old, cheerful man with twinkling eyes, clapped his hands. And that's a wrap for today's adventure. You all did wonderfully, especially Naruko and Jinso. Your teamwork really shines. Naruko sighed in relief, brushing her hair out of her face. I'm glad we finished before lunch. I was starting to get hungry. Tomorrow, the author continued, we'll have more adventures. Naruko, Jinso, Minato, and Kushina will all appear again, learning new lessons and making more friends. Naruko bounced in excitement. I can't wait. Adventure is always better with friends. And with that, the village echoed with laughter, happy chatter, and the promise of another bright, magical day. Dear YouTube family. This is all for now. If you enjoyed the content, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel to stay updated. Thank you for your support. Warm regards. 6 Path Weeb.